Good morning, everyone. I am Press Secretary Philomena Robertson. We do humbly apologize for the late start this morning, but this morning we also had the opening ceremony of a conference by the Caribbean Development Bank, which the Prime Minister attended and delivered remarks at, and some of the members of the media were also present at that, hence the delay to the start of this morning's post-cabinet press briefing. Welcome to all, to members of the media who have joined us. Thank you as usual for being here. To the listening and viewing public, thank you for tuning in via radio, television, social media, whichever platform you are viewing this on. As we start here this morning, let me first say that our hearts and our prayers are with the government and people are with the Bahamas. I'm sure we have all looked at the news. We have seen the devastation caused by Hurricane Dorian, one of the most intense storms this season. Now, parts of the island are still being battered. Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell has already reached out to the Prime Minister of the Bahamas. Government has pledged 100,000 US dollars to the government and people of the Bahamas to support in the immediate relief efforts. And I must say that this is part of an OECS decision. So all members of the OECS, all OECS countries have in fact pledged to each contribute 100,000 US dollars to the immediate relief effort for the people of the Bahamas. Our thoughts and our prayers remain with them this morning. Most of us here in Grenada have been through this situation. We would have experienced Ivan in 2004. From my personal perspective, the experience is more recent with Hurricane Irma in the British Virgin Islands in 2017. That was also a Category 5 system. But unlike Dorian, she did not sit on the BVI for that length of time. Again, our thoughts and prayers with the people of the Bahamas. And we want to say this morning, too, that the National Disaster Management Agency has activated its disaster relief account at the Cooperative Bank. That account number is 121004900. All monies contributed there will be donated to the disaster relief effort in the Bahamas. I thank you so much. Now, let us get to the business at hand this morning. We have with us the Minister for Education, Human Resource Development and Religious Affairs, Honorable Emmeline Pear, along with the Permanent Secretary in that ministry, Mr. Kevin Andel. The academic year has just started. There's excitement. Some are going to school for the first time. Some are going from primary to secondary. Some are moving from secondary on to tertiary. So lots of excitement all around, lots of additional responsibilities for parents at this time. And of course, it's a busy time for the Ministry of Education, ensuring that all things are in place. Just last week, we had the handing over of the Holy Cross RC School in Munich. And that was a memorable experience for me because for so long, the residents there have had to deal with less than normal circumstances, but they have endured, and now they have a top-class building, and I'm sure many other constituencies, parishes will be clamoring for that type of facility. But it shows that our education system is moving on up. So, Minister, I invite you to make an opening statement here this morning.
Thank you very much, Philo. And let me say, it's the first time that I've been on a post-cabinet briefing that starts off on such a sad note. And I do really want to join with you in extending prayers and best wishes, support, and I'm sure every Grenadian feel the same, to the people of the Bahamas as they go through an experience I'm sure none of us would want to be experiencing at this time. And also let us stand by and be ready if we have to give personally. So we've heard of the government's commitment. Normally we are very generous people in time like this, and I'm sure we will be hearing from NADMA in the future. I'm probably jumping the gun there, but we always prepared as a people to give. and we must stand by being prepared to do so along with government. Special morning to all of our listeners, viewers, and of course members of the media who are here this morning. It's really a privilege and an honor for me to be on this session of Post-Cabinet. About 2 weeks ago, Minister Moses was here speaking about exams and the exams results, CSEC and so on. So I'm sure you're aware we won't be dealing with exams this morning. This morning, I want to first extend best wishes. Best wishes to all of our students, our principals, our teachers, all of our stakeholders, our ancillary staff, all of those who are involved in teaching and learning at all of our schools, Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. I pray that God would continue to guide, continue to bless, continue to lead us in this academic year. As we look forward to this year, there are a number of things that we wish to bring to your attention. But as we move into this, I want to take the time to specially recognize those persons, it's my first opportunity to do so, who have excelled and performed extremely well in all of the exams referred to over the past week, and to specially recognize all of our principals, teachers, our parents, and various stakeholders for the support that they have given to our students over the last academic year. I always say this, and I'm sure you expect me to repeat that this morning. I said it last year. While we celebrate the successes, we still do have to look at the weaknesses. Those who did not do well, those who probably paid for the exams and never did it. This morning, I want us to focus on a couple areas and to start with school repairs and construction. 19 schools were approved for major repair works. We are well on our way as it relates to completion. Many of you may have seen the press release which indicated that a couple of our schools may start a couple days, about a week maximum, later than was expected. That list of 19 schools' major repairs in a number of instances had to do with roofs. And so in some cases where we would have been able to suspend the work to continue after regular school hours, in some cases it was impossible. And in one case that I know of personally, where it had to do with electrical issues, we did not want to take the chance to put our students at risk. So that list that was circulated is that we were convinced that those schools should not open until we are satisfied that the environment is safe and conducive. In some cases, the work was completed, but the principal and staff needed an additional day or two to move things back and to prepare the environment, and PS would give some more details as to some of those schools. The press secretary indicated Holy Cross Heresy School completed to the cost of over $5 million. Sure, the people of Munich surrounding areas are extremely happy. But just to reiterate, we are concerned about the numbers in that school, as many parents may have moved over the years their children to other schools, and we're appealing to them. The environment is extremely conducive now for teaching and learning, and we invite them to return their children to that particular school. Also want to use the opportunity to refer to the GEEP project. And that project, we have about 5 schools, major repairs, and we have 4 new schools to be constructed under that particular project. Work is well underway as it relates to designs, as it relates to the start of actual work on the ground, and we are progressing nicely there. That being said, I cannot say this morning that I'm satisfied, I'm happy with where we are, and probably I'll never be able to say that because of the number of schools that we have throughout the island, Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. But what I can say to you is that this government is extremely committed to the issue of ensuring that we have a conducive environment for teaching and learning. The plan, therefore, is, 1, that we are going to install school supervisors as it relates to infrastructural development of our schools, as it relates to maintenance, as it relates to monitoring of what is happening infrastructurally on the ground. Now, we did not have that before. This is a new element being introduced. And we found that to be necessary for two reasons. One, we've been doing a lot of repairs on schools, a lot of work. Just within 4 weeks, thereabout, we would have spent over $5 million committed. And so we want to make sure that the work we are doing, the quality is extremely high. I don't think we have to hide to say this is a fact, that some of the work we are doing now, work was done on some of those schools just a couple of years ago. And the question, it brings to question the issue of quality in some cases. And so we are correcting this at this time. I want to express special thank you this morning and to appreciate the contribution of the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. I want to also specially recognize the Minister and Ministry of Works, of course, Financial Services Limited, and many of our principal and staff at the Ministry of Education for the role that they've played in making a lot of what we've been able to achieve possible. Of course, the PSA has been leading the team at the Ministry of Education, and I can tell you it has been a difficult one, a challenge, in some cases even to have access to some of the schools during the vacation. While we are extremely happy of all that is being done, all that has been done, will be done, I did not even mention that we have 3 preschools, new schools to be constructed. The groundbreaking ceremony happened for 1 already, and 2, the funding is available, the arrangements are all in place, and very soon we should see movements there. While I say this, I am extremely uncomfortable about the fact that some of the work we are doing is as a result of vandalism. And it's extremely disappointing that this has to be even said. We've had major break-ins in a number of our schools. We've had activities that indicates that people just want to be malicious and just want to destroy. And in some cases, frighteningly so, we've had reports of fires being set in some schools. I can give you practically one case in my own constituency, where on at least 3 occasions, a fire was started in a classroom. At least 3 occasions. On the last occasion, the government had to take an action which is costing the government significantly. But of course, I'm sure you would agree with me, securing those facilities, extremely costly but extremely important. Not just vandalism as it relates to the buildings, but I'm sure you would understand and empathize. A child who is part of maybe the 4-H unit and spends an afternoon planting crops and watering them during the school term, and at the end of the school term they cannot rip because people went in there, did the damage, ripped the fruits and so on. And you know, it's sad because many of those students look forward to eating what they planted. And the schools look forward to that as a support to their school feeding program. I want to make a special appeal to the general public this morning. We are supposed to be a people caring for children, concerned about the development, sustainable development of our country. And that kind of behavior cannot be one that identifies with our values as a people. How we value education, how we value our children. In one case quite recently, when the person failed in attempting to break the lock on the door, they attempted to set the door on fire. It's really unfortunate, but I'm just appealing to the general public. The government of Grenada cannot, at this time, afford to place a security system or a security officer in every single school. And the government should not have to be in a position to do that, because we should be, at a community level, the people who want to protect our institutions, protect our facilities, and I appeal to us to continue to do so. We are returning to school, and I want to make reference to the school books program. Government has just spent over $2.5 million on this program and just over $1 million on our uniform program. And all I'll say to this is that we are not totally happy with the level of transparency and accountability in, particularly I'm speaking about the school books program. And I always say, when you speak about what you're uncomfortable about, you must be prepared to speak about what you're going to do to address the problem. And so the Ministry of Education has set a new system in place for monitoring, supervising the administration of the school books program. Recently, an audit was conducted in all of our schools throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. And it was very unfortunate, the report, which I'm not going to go through in detail, but just to hint that one of the findings of that activity was that we had over 15,000 books still in boxes from time they were received and they were not distributed to students. There could have been 1,000,001 different reasons, but all I say is that unfortunately there were students who were at school without books in cases where those books were stored in facilities at our schools. We are also moving, and I've said this before as it relates to school books, to find additional ways in which we can provide and support, particularly support teaching and learning in our classroom. We concern about the health issue, the weight of the bags. We also concern about whenever the book list changes, and I've heard persons speak about this doesn't happen within 5 years. But it's something that has to happen. So I've heard people say the book list change and people have to buy new books. Well, if the edition changes, for example, and other countries have the updated version of the book, and we decide because of cost we're not going to upgrade the book, then that's a decision we can take. But if there's a new edition to a book, the best thing I believe for us to do is to upgrade our list locally. And this is what has happened in a number of instances. While that is being said, we do have to look at what we're doing too to see if there's any further way we can relieve our parents. And one of those ways is we are seriously looking at the issue of ebooks and the introduction of ebooks in our schools. And of course, PS can add some details there when he speaks. Procurement as it relates to furniture, we've just spent over $200,000 on furniture. Not every school would be able to get, and we've been doing this continuously. So this is just in most cases a top up to what persons have received in the past. Similarly, I want to mention school feeding and to say we are doing a similar audit as we've done with the school books program. We are very concerned about some of what is happening within that program, the management of the program. But let me hasten to say that at the same time, while we are concerned about management issues, while we're concerned about some of the reports from principals, some of the report from the managers of the program, at the same time, I want to applaud and recognize the contribution of teachers and principals to this program. And in very many cases, the sacrifices that are being made by community persons and leadership at our schools. The issue of ICT, as I just mentioned, extremely important, and we intend to upgrade and we intend to move on. We intend to fast track our activities there. PS is going to share some details of some of the projects that is currently on the way as it relates to using technology to enhance teaching and learning, to improve teaching and learning activities within our classrooms. As it relates to leadership of our schools, just to mention that we had about 28 principals and prospective principals participating in the OECS Education Support Program. I don't have to detail this morning the importance of improving on the leadership and the management in our various schools. That being said, I want to also make the point that we are also concerned that in spite of the Education Act clearly defining that every school must have a manager, every school must have a board of management because there are specific roles and functions that they must carry out. Most of our schools do not have board of management. Most of our schools do not have managers, and we are moving swiftly to provide further support support to our principals and teachers by appointing managers and board of management in our various schools. So we are going to be aggressively pursuing this because of the importance. Our curriculum standards, we've just introduced, and PS is going to give some more details to this. Part of the reason and the urgency of this is that we ought not to be just happy about the persons who do well, but we need to look at where our weaknesses are, where we need to strengthen, so that every child has an equal opportunity to learn and to do well. That being said, we are going to also start our visit to schools, led by the Minister of Education. We're going to resume that in the month of September. We want to give more support to our schools. We want to see what is happening. We want to be on the ground. We want to assess what is happening so that informed decisions could be taken. On a related matter of visits, school inspections, according to the Education Act, will also start in the month of September. That has not been done for many, many years. And we want to start with our private schools. A lot of the reports we are having of what is happening on the ground, the quality of our facilities, the quality of teaching and learning environment, and the actual delivery, we have some major concerns there. And so we want to work a little more to the rule. And the rule for us is always the Education Act. And so I just want to publicly say this, that we will in September begin the inspection of all of our private facilities. And in case we are not aware, an educational institution facility must have a license to operate. Now, we are, and I want to make this statement up front, we are not going to be demanding those licenses when we start those visits in September. And reason being, we have not had the systems in place, all the systems in place, to issue the license. So what we are going to be doing now is checking to ensure that the standards are met for issuing of those licenses. So I don't want anybody to panic, except if the panic has to do with putting your systems in place. If your systems are in place, there's no need to be worried. During the August vacation, we had over 750 teachers participating in teacher development programs, and in some cases, this was done jointly with the Grenada Union of Teachers. I also want to make mention of government continued support for teachers to upgrade themselves, and particularly I want to make reference to about 46 teachers who receive full scholarship to pursue studies at the University of the West Indies, open campus here, and an additional 25 who receive funding for their final year, in some cases 2 years, at universities, online studies that they are doing. We support once the areas are related to the education sector. I'm sure you have been following the number of persons who have just participated in our induction course. I just want to make the statement that we're moving closer to pre-service training. In other words, just as you train to become a doctor and then you get into the field, that's where we're heading. But I just thought I'd make the statement because I had a call from one person who was of the view, and I'm sure it was explained, participation in the induction course doesn't guarantee entry into the teaching service. Is just one of those things we encourage you to do if you intend to apply for the position. As it relates to staffing for this new academic year, PS is going to speak to that, but I just want to close by making reference to stakeholder relationship and our intention to improve as far as we can in that particular field. We understand very well in the Ministry of Education, we can't do this on our own. And if anyone is of this impression, they're totally wrong. We need the support of all of our stakeholders, and we do have many stakeholders. So in this academic year, in addition to what we've been doing in the last year, we're going to expand on our working relationship with our stakeholders and building partnership. And that is why we have engaged at the Ministry of Education someone who is coordinating all of our stakeholder activities, ensuring that we are building relationship and building opportunities for working together. I'm quite sure you would want to hear me comment on a particular stakeholder, and I'm speaking here of the Grenada Union of Teachers. Just to say, and I'm not sure why at that point the mic seemed to have gone off, but just to say that over the past months, we've been working extremely closely with the Grenada Union of Teachers. We just about 6 months ago, if that much, resumed our monthly meetings, and I have to say that I'm extremely happy and satisfied with the discussions that we've been having, and particularly want to mention at least 3 of the areas that we have been holding discussions on. The Code of Ethics for Teachers, and I'm happy that the union is just as concerned as we are about that. The issue of ICT and improving teaching and learning in the classroom, sabbatical leave, and the outstanding articles in the collective agreement. At this time, I wish to pause and allow the PS to continue with a couple other areas that we want to address this morning.
Good morning, and I would like to add my voice to the issue of the hurricane, because each and every one of us can relate to Hurricane Ivan and how the Caribbean really supported us so that we can get back on our feet. And I would like to add my voice to that and say to the people of the Bahamas that our prayers are with you, and whatever we can do as a people to help you get back on your feet as you did for us during Ivan, we would strive to do that. I would like to start with just some details on school repairs and construction. As Minister clearly stated, 19 schools were approved, and I can say to date, major works are happening in Bonet Government School, the Victoria Preschool, Victoria School for Special Education, St. Andrew's Anglican Secondary School, St. Andrew's Methodist, St. Michael's RC. These are the major works. Then we have minor works that is taken on by Financial Complex Limited in regards to plumbing, electrical, and so forth, and some schools like St. Paul's Government, St. Michael's RC, Ford Preschool, Current Government, St. David's RC, and St. Joseph Convent, Grenville. There are more schools, but I just want to give you a snapshot on some of the schools that we have targeted. In regards to vandalism, as Minister clearly stated, this is a major issue for us because we are striving to have safe schools. That's one of our major focus in the ministry. Child-friendly schools, and having these schools being vandalized is really not a good thing for us. And the rising cost of repairs and maintenance, we cannot continue to allow this to happen. As a ministry, we are taking the necessary steps to ensure that our schools are safe. In regard to the ICT, and Minister spent some time on that, but I would like to give some details on the ICT approach to education. We are in the 21st century, and we, as a ministry, should endeavor to develop 21st century citizens. To do that, we must provide a platform so that our children can be competitive. And access to the technology is a very important thing for us within the ministry. Thus, the MESH project. The MESH project is sponsored by the NTRC, and it is part of the Universal Service Fund. The aim of MESH is to provide safe, filtered internet access to all schools, public as well as private. And this project is in complement with the CASIP project, which is geared towards providing high-speed internet to government buildings and schools. Now, we know some schools had very slow internet access. with the completion of those projects, we are going to see download speed of 100 gigs. And the whole school, all of the schools would have, children would have, principals as well as the general public would have internet access, high-speed internet access. And that complements into our various programs, projects like the MSTAR project, which is a content assessment e-platform that has been done, that was completed by NGRM. It is a very robust platform. It is based on the Moodle platform, which in itself would provide a very interactive environment so that teachers, students can interact. Content can be posted, but not only that, assessment can be done. We also would complement, and we're looking into the provision of e-books, as the minister highlighted before. The ministry team went to Antigua to look at an e-book platform there, which was very, very, very effective. The principals and the staff and the students we interacted with really complemented that platform. That platform in itself would really aid in improving performance among our students. But not only that, I can tell you personally, my 5-year-old went to school this morning for the first time, and I had to carry the bag, because the bag was just too heavy. And we are dealing with a new breed of students who are more attuned to technology than we are. They interact with it in such a way that is unbelievable to some of us. We have to embark on a 21st century education system, whereby the technologies that our students are exposed to at home should be reflected and should be in place at our schools. And these platforms, the MSTAR platform, the MESH project and CASI project, and a proposed ebooks platform would really aid in this for our students. Leadership training. Leadership training, as Minister also alluded to, is very important in our way forward. The OECS has embarked on the OESP project, which really looked at enhancing our education system. It is focusing on the OECS curriculum platforms and assessments and evaluation of teachers' performance. So we have had these curriculum standards piloted in 16 schools for the last year. Now we are looking at a rollout of that standards and assessment in all schools. As of the summer, every school was exposed to elements of the standards. However, the standard is very comprehensive in nature, and requires in-depth involvement of all involved. That is why the ministry is looking at a phased approach. And the standards are in the 4 core areas: mathematics, language arts, science, and social studies. As we move forward, we're seeing excitement among our teachers in regards to the standards. They are excited about it because what it does, it presents a platform that they can use to improve delivery of instruction. So as a ministry, we are pushing forward. We are moving forward with this OECS curriculum standards so that there is harmonization, not only among our schools, but also among our OECS partners as we go forward. We also, and if you notice, there's a heavy emphasis on training and capacity building. And with the prospective teachers who participated in the induction course, we saw these prospective teachers involved in intense lesson planning exercises, modes of instruction exercises, and classroom management, and also the 21st century classroom. What I can say is that these young teachers were very, very excited about the teaching profession. And I can tell you that most of us that are in leadership, or most of us making a significant contribution to the development of our country, sometime or the other, taught or were exposed to good teachers that propel us to go forward. Last but not least, I would like to look at the CCSLC assessment. The Caribbean Certificate of Secondary Level Competence, CCSLC, is a secondary level qualification developed by CXC and offered in the Caribbean region since 2007. It can be used, and it will be used in Grenada, as a midstream evaluation at Form 3 at the secondary school. We're saying that the students are exposed to instruction from Form 1 and Form 2. At Form 3, we are going to assess where they are through the CCSLC and where they need to go forward so that they can be successful in this CSEC examination. The challenge before was the fee. There is a fee associated with that exam. That fee has been waived, and parents would not have to pay that fee. So every student at secondary school Form 3 in this school year would be sitting the CCSLC assessment. And that is a major achievement for the ministry and for the education system, because as you know, in everything that we do, the best way to know where you need to go is if you monitor and evaluate. And this form of assessment is important. Notwithstanding that I cannot leave here and don't speak about technical and vocational education. As of this year, the national TVET policy would be completed, and that is done in collaboration with the NTA, the GC TVET, and UNESCO. They have had a number of interaction with stakeholders in regards to where that policy should go. That policy would guide skills development in this country. And this, again, is a significant addition to the educational agenda for 2019-2020. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Permanent Secretary Kevin Andel. Minister Pear, I just want to go back to you for a brief moment before we entertain questions from members of the media. I know you're also acting in the capacity as a Minister for Social Development, and there are some developments as it relates to the program for adolescent mothers. Can you enlighten us about that, please?
Of members of the media, that the government of Grenada took a decision that because of some of the challenges faced by PAM at this time, because a number of the issues surrounding the challenges are before the court, our concern is the children who are enrolled and who may have an interest in being enrolled at PAM. As a result of our children and their welfare, their well-being, the government took a decision that it will make accommodation available for every student currently enrolled at PAM to attend other institutions or other programs according to their choice. In addition to that, the government would assign special support to each student. If we speak in psychosocial development, assessment, support, every child will be, or every student would be taken care of. In addition to that, there'll be other support through the Ministry of Social Development, as they are playing the lead role in that regard. As it relates to subvention for PAM, government's decision is to discontinue subvention to PAM at this time so that all matters can be resolved and that a decision on the way forward can be taken. In that regard, a special committee has also been appointed, representation from the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Social Development, Ministry of Legal Affairs, Coalition on the Rights of the Child, Grenada National Organization of Women. All of these partners and players would be involved in making recommendation on a program of support for these young mothers. As I said before, and I want to reiterate, our concern, our only concern at this time is the students who would be affected, and we have put all structures in place through the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Social Development to ensure that they are well taken care of.
Thank you very much, Minister, for that additional update as it relates to the program for adolescent mothers. So we have had it there, very thorough updates from the Minister for Education and her Permanent Secretary, Mr. Kevin Andel. So the time is now to open the floor to questions from members of the media. You may identify yourself and your media house as per usual before asking your question. What I'll do this morning is also allow persons viewing the live feed on the GIS Facebook page the opportunity to ask two questions, only two questions from online this morning in the event that you're interested. Members of the media, the floor is open.
Good morning, Calestra Faria. Minister, you spoke of vandalism in the schools. Can we identify any specific area that is being targeted, or are we looking at an island-wide onslaught of that problem?
Off my head, I can think of 3 parishes and 3 schools. So currently we are very, very concerned about St. Paul's Government School. We are very, very concerned, and I'll refer to it as Carriacou. Most people would know St. Martin de Porres, Carriacou School, and Riverside Government School. Just 3, but I'm just showing you the spread across the country.
And is there an ongoing investigation with the police to try to identify the source of that situation?
In all cases, the police is normally involved. The principal takes the lead and ministry supports. So we're working together with the police.
Okay, Minister, the ministry now has a new chief education officer. I noticed you didn't mention. I'm not sure if it was by design or omission. But I have some questions. Well, one question relating to that. How comfortable are you, given the opinions expressed by your former permanent secretary, Finley Jeffrey, regarding the abilities, the capabilities, the performance, and the interaction of the new person in that post who is being confirmed by the Public Service Commission? Do you have any concern about management within the ministry, given that someone above her would have had something totally negative to say about her management?
So let me say inadvertently, I did not. And I probably was worse yet. The person sitting next to me, I did not even introduce him. He's also new. So let me backtrack now to formally introduce my permanent secretary, who is having his first post-cabinet briefing. So I guess you did not think of him as well. I didn't introduce him. But let me also say, in the person of Angela Finley, we also have a new chief education officer. As it relates to the opinion, I'm totally unaware. I've not seen anything as it relates to the opinion of former PS Jeffrey. So I can't say that I can speak specific to his opinion on the individual. I respect totally the decision of the Public Service Commission to appoint the individual in question, and I'm certain there would have been deliberations and there would have been review of various documents and information to make that particular decision. One of the things I think is critical to mention here is that we have been in search for a chief education officer for some time now. And I recall former PS also mentioning the last pool of persons as to whether or not we had persons there that we felt strongly in terms of recommending forward for the interview. The pool was so limited. So I remember we had a pool of about 6 persons. There was even discussion as it relates to inviting persons regionally to apply for that position. So there has been a search and there has been extension of that search on various occasions. We are not at the place where we have concluded as a ministry that we are happy that we don't need to continue the search for a chief education officer in the interim, and I'm quite sure you've heard over and over the cry that we should never have that office vacant. So in the interim, the Public Service Commission has appointed Angela Finley, and we are quite prepared and happy to work along with Mrs. Finley in that position. I can't speak about her inabilities. I have not had anything that indicates to me personally that she is not able to perform this particular duty. We continue to support her in that regard.
So you're not concerned that the difficulties that she's been having within the planning department, which, as you know, is a key department for your ministry,
Right.
and there have been a lot of problems within that ministry. As a matter of fact, issues had been discussed at the Ministry of Legal Affairs involving a physical altercation between herself and a junior person, that she has been sitting out in the hallway and not attending senior officers' meetings, and so there's been that department has been in turmoil. I know she's being given broader responsibilities, and
Right.
I would assume that Ms. Finley the recommendation would have come from the ministry to offer her
Right.
up as a possible candidate for
Okay,
public
so
service.
let's start with the physical altercation. As far as I'm aware, Ms. Finley reported a junior staff actually abusing her, as in the report that was made. That matter is a matter that has been reviewed at the PSC level. So maybe somebody who does not know may assume that you're referring to Ms. Finley attacking someone, but
not
also
at all.
right. So let me say this: that there's been some challenges within the planning unit, but I cannot say here this morning that I can conclude or anybody can conclude that the issues in the planning unit was as a result of that particular officer. As a matter of fact, I would give you just a practical example. I myself sat in a meeting in a discussion with the staff of the planning unit. And because you've been so specific, I want to also respond specific to the question. And individuals in that unit were asked individually, and I remember that particular question specific, minus the head of the unit, which is Ms. Finley. Would you say that this unit can or would move forward with the issues that you now face? And every single officer said no. Point I'm trying to make. If we speak about the planning unit, we can conclude that there's been some very general, broad issues and problems within that unit. So the source of the information, quite obviously, have not briefed you general enough, because I believe there are some deeper issues there that you should have been alerted to. Not information that I would necessarily want to speak to at this particular time.
We do have a question from online. Minister, someone is asking for, actually Linda Straker, freelance journalist, she's asking for clarity as to how long the program for adolescent mothers will be out of operations. Do we have any idea?
That we cannot really give a time frame particularly because a court matter surrounds this. So we are hoping, and I mean, our preference as a government is that the parties involved would resolve their issues amicably, that they would look at what are the challenges, what are the problems, and really find a solution themselves so that this thing doesn't even have to be drawn out in a court. It's unfortunate it has to be discussed there in the first place. So in terms of time, we cannot speak to time. We can only speak to our decision to protect the children.
Thank you very much, Minister. Any further questions from other members of the media?
Good morning, Madam Minister. Leslie Ann Johnson, Government Information Service. You mentioned about a new system in place to monitor the school books program, a concern that more than 15,000 books were still in boxes. Can you go into a little more detail as to what this system is about and how we could avoid this problem in the future?
So that system has to do with the appointment of a monitoring team. I think that's a critical component that I want to refer to. A monitoring team that is going to be visiting our schools, monitoring what is happening as it relates to delivery, as it relates to implementation of the program, particularly as it relates to accountability. So if I gave you 500 books, you must be able to say what you have at the end of the school year and why you have that amount and how. Mind you, though, we are also very prepared to provide additional support to schools because in some schools, you have individuals who are not teachers and principals administering the program. So a secretary, an Imani trainee. And in some cases, it might be an additional burden for a teacher, and we are prepared at this stage to provide additional support through the Imani program and through other persons as ancillary staff in our schools.
Mr. Andal, you mentioned about a team going to Antigua to look at the e-model for the e-book system. What have you learned and what can we take from that to put in a Grenadian context?
It was rather interesting that when we went to Antigua, we were advised that in the implementation of e-books, stakeholder involvement is important. Critical teachers, parents, all the users of the platform. And with that in mind, as of Friday, we're having, before we even look at the whatever system or decide, we're having a stakeholder consultation to explore the whole aspect of ebooks. Because there are varying thoughts on ebooks and varying school of thought. Some school of thought say that ebooks, some people say it improves performances and there is greater retention with ebooks. Some experts believe no. So the whole aspect of that, getting the stakeholders involved and exploring how this can happen, why this should happen, is critical for us. We also learned that it is vital to have the support system in place for ebooks, because ebooks comes with devices and the management of devices, and that will be tablet or laptops. The management of those devices by students is critical. Also developing an appreciation for the device so that students would use it for its intended use is also important. So we also learned that in the initial rollout in Antigua, teacher buying was lacking. So teachers did not use the ebooks as it was intended to. But when the whole enlightenment, training and so forth, then teachers started to use it and they noticed it was a very valuable tool. We went to one secondary school and can you imagine that the device is used to do an exam in the classroom and you get the results right there. And you can take the exam again, because the system can scramble the questions and put different questions, and you can take a next exam. So if you're doing numbers or trigonometry, it can give you about 5 different trigonometry examinations, and the students can see where they went wrong. So it's a very powerful tool, but it requires it requires systems to be in place and that you follow a very strict implementation guideline. So that is why we believe that getting parents on board, getting students and stakeholders on board would be critical.
So let me just be clear. So you're saying there'll be a stakeholder meeting on Friday in this
Yes.
regard?
Yes.
Okay, and that involves parents, teachers, everybody who needs
That would engage the unions, principal association, PTA, teachers within the schools and so forth. That will be the initial stakeholder forum. But we're looking for other stakeholder forum as we go forward in regards to the...
Thank you.
We'll quickly stick something here that PS probably omitted to mention. That session would not just be a talk shop. It would be an actual demo to see what is practical, what is possible. So teachers can see, they can actually take a little exam using the device, assess it themselves, see if they're happy, they're not happy. So it's a practical session that is actually taking place.
Thank you very much. We have another online question here from Kamasha Belfon. Will there be an introduction of skills training at the primary school level?
Right. The facility at Munich, for those who witnessed the opening, they would have noted that I specifically applauded the introduction of certain rooms in that facility. The Woodwork Center, Home Economics, and the TVET ICT Center. We have to move back and probably even go beyond where we were before in terms of introducing skills training at the primary school level. We've drifted a bit, but it's not too late for us to get back there. So specifically, to answer the question, yes, we are moving closer. But let me also correct a perception that is out there that absolutely nothing is happening in that regard at the primary level. While we do not have facility in every school, there's what you call clusters. So for example, the schools within the St. Andrew area, I'm very much aware that they go to the St. Andrews Methodist, St. Andrews Home Economic Facility that is right next to the St. Andrews Methodist School. So they do their woodwork classes there and their home economic classes there. So the drift was to reduce, but we have to move to increase the number of facilities.
Thank you, Minister. Any further questions?
Okay. Rena Pierre MTV. A lot of information. I have a couple of questions, so I hope I'm permitted to ask all of them.
A couple.
First off, I'd like to continue as it relates to the ebook and ICT program coming up. First, I'd like to say it's a good initiative. The thing that I would like to know is, as it relates, I know a couple of years we had an issue with some of our students and the performance as it relates to English and maths. Now, though this whole ICT thing is a good thing, how are we going to deal with the negative impact as it relates to students having their words corrected by the instruments that are they using and other things like that? Because while we welcome the ICT program, we also need to understand that there are negative effects that can affect the children as it relates to reading and writing and spelling and stuff like that.
Being an educator most of my life, I can tell you that I do share those concerns. But in every concern that you have, there are solutions and the way going forward. We have to take a blended approach. A blended approach whereby we use the technology for the good it can provide, but also reinforce the basics. I remember going to school, something that was very important to us was the substitution table, whereby you learn grammar in a particular way. In these days, everything has become so complicated that the basic things, as children, you would never say she are, because it was drilled into you that she and are cannot go together. Nowadays, you hear people still want to use that kind of blend, because we started now to forsake the basics and embrace the technology wholesale, not recognizing that is a blended approach. And for us to maximize, we must have a blended approach. We must emphasize the basics, but also embrace the technology.
Okay. I'm heading over to Minister. As it relates to the transparency and accountability for the Feeding and Book program, I know you spoke about how you would implement it, but how soon do you think this can go about? And what are some of the challenges as it relates to the food program? You more emphasize on the
So in some cases, very, very simple measures. So I'll just give you one quick example of the school books. If you're going to be distributing books, it's very basic that I should have you sign off on what you receive, and you should say, this is what I've received because I've signed off. So you've had cases in the past where the Ministry of Education say, I gave you 10 books. And the principal said, no, I got 5. Now, if you have no documentation to confirm that, then we have problems. As it relates to the school feeding program, one of the concern we have, because this program is a government program, and so the rules within the government system, we want to adhere as best as possible to them. So the issue of procurement, we have some challenges there, right? The issue of the speed at which we provide certain things, our system, we want to make sure that if we're going to deliver, and we have the resources to deliver, we're delivering on time. So I'm talking about addressing issues on both sides of the fence. So whether on the ground in the school, at the Ministry of Education, because there are a number of weaknesses right there, right? So we have to address across the board all of the challenges that would lead to a properly run program, efficiently run program, and where there's value for money.
I have 2 more questions, and I will to the adolescent mothers.
Rena, I'll just allow you one, just to make sure that everybody in the room has an opportunity to ask a question
No
if
problem.
they need to.
The question I was going to ask is, what about the students who would like to be enrolled coming up? Do they have a chance? And is there any thought of the government having a new program other than the PAM program, since it's on a wait and not sure of time?
So persons who would like to get into the program, we want to work along with the current leadership at the school. In other words, our dialogue or communication must be active. So we must know John Brown, Mary Jane came in today to apply and they're interested, and we work together with them to facilitate. So we're not in a war, we want to work together. Right? This is what the ministry would be doing, working along with, because a person who wants to get into this program, they would not communicate with the Ministry of Social Services, they would call at PAM. So PAM would now be able to say to them, there is X and Y and Z option in the meantime, right? So this is what we have worked out in terms of the arrangement with that learning institution. Remind me of the second part?
Is it any consideration of government?
Right, a new program. Of course, we are not at this point considering that. At this point, as I said, our focus, ensuring that every child has an opportunity to an education and their children are also in safety. So we've gone ahead to make an accommodation that these children can be enrolled at government daycare. And only yesterday, I have not even briefed the PS on this, yesterday Cabinet agreed that we are prepared to waive any charges for them to attend those facilities, their children. So we have not gone to this, but any decision that is long-term would not be made in isolation by just government. Government would interact with all stakeholders in the best interests of the persons involved.
Are there any further questions from the media?
Morning, Akisha Felix, the Grenada Broadcasting Network. Okay, so Minister, can you confirm a stabbing incident in St. Mark yesterday, one of the secondary schools?
At this stage, no, I can't. I am not aware of that particular incident.
Okay, and well, it's probably late, so I'm not sure the question. If you did address it, you let me know. Okay, so for the schools that are reopening at a later date, what happens to the curriculum? Would it be revised, or are they going straight into what is going to be accommodated for the students?
Right. So first, it's not the first time that we've had a situation like that. It has happened many times before, where there's a delay. But also, we've had situations where man-made situations as well as natural situations. So in the case of the weather, we've had cases where we've missed a couple days, we've missed a week, and we always find a way to facilitate and to make up. But the same curriculum we follow.
Okay. All right. So in July to August, I was afforded the opportunity to host my summer program at the Telescope Primary School. I know that the schools have priorities, but I won't say that the conditions are deplorable, but it's not conducive to learning in a sense that there's 2 toilets for the student population. And I don't know if there's a dust issue because of the area, because it's Telescope, but it's always dusty. I mean, yeah. So some of the students came down with, a set of allergies or whatever. Okay, so as it relates to priority, would Telescope Primary School be on the list, or is there any work put forward for the primary school, especially the toilet system?
Can say is a number of schools would be asking the very same question, or a number of people with interest in particular schools. I can say to you up front, they are not on the priority list. As a matter of fact, as parliamentary representative, there's been a discussion as it relates to this, and we are working with the principal to try to identify external support and finance as it relates to this. Now, we normally get support from principals when we say to them, we are forced to prioritize because of X, Y, or Z. So if you look at X school and Y, they're at the top of the priority list. Many persons understand. But let me just make a general statement. Our commitment is to create a safe, conducive learning environment at all of our schools. Some would be faster than others because of limited resources. The GIP project alone is $32 million. But if you're talking about constructing one school, in the case of Holy Cross, that's $5.3 million. So you understand it's a major undertaking that this government has taken on its hand. And the important thing is the commitment and the goodwill. But we're going to do our best. And we are looking alternatively, too, as it relates to funding and support. I have also been speaking to some private sector companies, even as it relates to fencing of some schools. We say to the school, you understand why the fencing of the school cannot be an immediate priority based on this school where children would be wetting if we don't correct the roof leak issue. But how do we work together? Because we would love to do remember we have hundreds, right, of cases. We want to do all of those, but we are forced to do it in some order of priority.
Any questions from any other members of the media present here this morning?
Minister, I do hope you get support from...
Let's see if there are any other members of the media who would like to ask a question.
I think everybody asked their question already, fellow.
Okay, I'll just entertain one more question. We did start late, but we are now 10 minutes overdue, so I'll just allow one more question. We do have a second part to this post-cabinet press briefing, and I'll give the details after Ms. Faria's question and the response.
Minister, I hope that I'm glad you're getting in private sector support, you said, for the schools, and I went up to WIRC again this morning. I'm going to use the time that has been so graciously awarded to me by the press secretary to speak on this, that there's a flood issue as well in front of the kindergarten. And I want to say this publicly on national radio and every other means that the government has deemed fit to get their message out to, that the WIRC school, I know you're prioritizing, but the government did say that we're doing extremely well economically. So as a parent, I find it hard to reconcile all of the glowing terms that we speak of our economy in, and then we put our children in danger in the schools. The children at the WIRC school are in danger, both from the health hazard because of the water that's lodging right in front of the kindergarten department, and the broken fence that it's going to, if something happens, they're not just falling feet down, they're falling into traffic. And I don't know about the government, but I love my children and they are at that school.
Let me agree with you that we do have a number of schools, including Bolio RC, where there are concerns, right? And my response to her, I'm quite sure you agree. As it relates to private sector, we would pursue, because I believe in the private sector there is a certain percentage of funds that the private sector put into community development, and I'm going to personally appeal to the private sector if they can provide further support to government as it relates to community development through education. But let me just use the opportunity to say, and I'm happy that you agree that the government has been doing well economically, the country has been doing well. No rebuttals. But I'm sure you would also agree with me that if we are doing well economically, we cannot take all the resources to put in one basket, right? So as Minister for Education, I am very comfortable, very, very comfortable, and I'm not afraid to say this, that this government has gone way beyond this year to support us in the Ministry of Education as it relates to school repairs. The $5.3 million I just spoke of, this was not budgeted funds. So the monies we've budgeted, in 1 week it could be gone. But government has, I'm going to use your adjective, graciously supported the Ministry of Education with additional support for refurbishment, expansion, repairs, what have you. And we understand. Now, the same way we can be selfish, and I can be selfish and say to the government, whatever monies that government has raised in us doing well, we love the children, let's do everything now, right now for the children. And it's the same way the Minister for Health would then respond and say, but yes, we love the children, but let's remember we have a hospital that we have to keep running. We have patients who need medication. It is the same way the union would say, well, you're doing well, give us 25%. So I really would not want to be in the shoe of the Minister for Finance right now, because his role is to balance all of this for the greater good so that this country can move forward. And I'm, again, agreeing with you that we've been doing a good job there.
I did not say that he was doing well. I actually have no evidence. I seem to have been cut off by your technical people. I have no evidence that the government is doing well, but
I'll give you the
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister. Any final thoughts, comments from yourself and Permanent Secretary before we put a wrap on this morning?
I would just want to... I listened to the questions this morning, and I know these questions are not just media people asking, but you can sense that there's genuine concern about what we need to do to get our education system right and to move it forward. And I really want to commend the media this morning. You spoke not as journalists, but journalists plus people who are concerned about education. What I can say to you, we are totally committed. This is a major task. It is a difficult task, but we are totally committed as a government to move the education system forward. And we continue to rely on your support and the support of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique.
Thank you, Minister. P.S., any final words from you? Okay, P.S. is good. The final words belong to the Minister. So we have had this morning the Minister for Education, Human Resource Development and Religious Affairs, Honorable Emmeline Pear, accompanied by Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Mr. Kevin Andel. And I must say, from where I sit, even as Press Secretary, a very thorough report on developments within that ministry this morning. So much is happening. As Minister said, we are all aware of the amount of work that needs to be done. We cannot all accomplish it at one time, but with each project, with each program, with each initiative, we are getting closer to the plans that we promised to deliver. Well, that brings us to the end of this particular segment of this morning's post-cabinet press briefing. We actually have a two-part briefing this morning. We would reconvene at about midday. I beg your patience with us. The U.S. ambassador to Barbados, the OECS, and of course Grenada included, she is coming this morning to be part of the press briefing. Her flight landed just about 5 minutes ago, so she's en route to here. So we will reconvene in about half an hour to talk about the impending visit to Grenada by the U.S. naval ship Comfort, so you'll have an opportunity to have your questions answered. Before we go, I just want to touch again on the Bahamas situation and say again that our thoughts and prayers are with persons there. Government has already committed $100,000 as part of an OECS initiative to contribute to the relief effort in the Bahamas. And the National Disaster Management Agency in Grenada has also reactivated its disaster relief account at the Grenada Cooperative Bank. So you can make your contributions there. No food, no water at this time, just monetary contributions, because it is easier transportation-wise to obtain items from the United States, from Florida, to get them to the Bahamas. So the account number at Cooperative Bank, 121-004900. Please feel free to make your contributions there. Several years ago, when we were the ones in need, we know that many persons within the Caribbean, within the international community, stepped up and made it possible for us to get back on our feet and look at where we are today. So as Prime Minister has said, we need to be our brother's keeper, and the time is now for us to do just that. So thank you very much for being with us now. We'll see you again in about half an hour for the second part of this morning's post-cabinet press briefing. Thank you.
It is said that education Bank believes this to be the truth. Hence the reason we have made it our prerogative to ensure that your key is in safe hands with us. Here is how you can unlock your success with an education loan from the GDB. We offer you 3 loan options. We've got our regular student loan, our work-study student loan, and our special student loan. Our regular student loan is for persons who wish to pursue full-time tertiary level education. If you are a permanent employee who wish to study while continuing your employment, then our work-study loan is for you. Our special student loan is in collaboration with the government of Grenada, geared towards vulnerable persons who would like to pursue higher level education. Remember, you must have proof of admission from a recognized institution here at home or abroad. All our loans are 100% financing with interest rates as low as 5%. Get your funding from GDB today for your tertiary level education, your technical training or vocational training, even professional development, with up to 12 years to repay. Your future success is today. Grab it now.
If you want to stay married, divorce speed. Never drink and drive. After whiskey, driving is risky. A message from the Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force.
Grenada's economy is heading for its 7th year of consistent growth, averaging over 5%. Unemployment was reduced by 20%, while debt to GDP ratio was reduced from 108% to 63.5%. NNP committed to the economic and social development of our people. NNP delivering on the promise.
Government pension. What are the facts? Are all public workers entitled to pension? Are public workers owed gratuity? Here are the facts. Fact 1. The Pension Disqualification Act of 1983 was validated on April 21, 1985 by the democratically elected government led by former Prime Minister Herbert A. Blaise. This means that public workers employed after February 22nd, 1985 are not legally entitled to a pension from the government of Grenada. Fact 2. The judgment in the Hermelin Armstrong case does not create legal precedence for the reinstatement of pension to public workers employed after February 22, 1985. The judgment created a legal precedence only for those workers who joined the public service in a pensionable post between April 4, 1983 and February 22, 1985. There were 56 such workers. The government restored pension to those 56 workers in 2018 at a cost of $7.7 million. Fact 3. All officers employed in a pensionable post who joined the service after February 22, 1985 are not legally entitled to a pension from government. They are only entitled to a pension from NIS once they meet the necessary requirements as per the NIS Act. Fact 4. The Cabinet's decision in 2016 to reform pension is rooted in moral and social justice principles, and it is not a legal obligation. Therefore, any agreement on pension is a win for public workers. Fact 5. The MOU signed between government, the unions, and staff associations in February and March 2018 stated that the pension regime which will be implemented must be affordable and sustainable. Fact 6. The proposed pension regime for public workers employed between February 22, 1985 and December 31, 2018, as stated in the MOU, is a non-contributory pension plan. Therefore, no deductions will be taken from workers' salaries to finance their pension from government. Pensioners also benefit from any future
Staff and students at Holy Cross RC School start the school year in style and comfort in their new learning environment. Details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Monday, September 2nd, I am Rikisha St. Louis. Staff members and students of the new $5.3 million Holy Cross RC School experienced a mixture of emotions ranging from excitement to gratitude as they finally started the new school term at the new state-of-the-art school facility on Monday. This comes after enduring years of discomfort and housing at less than adequate locations since the original school building was destroyed by Hurricane Ivan in 2004. A GIS team visited the school on its first day and filed this report.
You can see a level of excitement from the students, knowing it's a new facility and knowing that it's a new area for them.
I was amazed and I love my classroom because it's very comfortable. I'm glad I'm coming to my new school, and the most I enjoy is the library, so I could go and read and understand certain things.
Moving from their prior location at the Catholic Church Parish Hall some distance away, the staff and students of the Holy Cross RC School are now enjoying a more beautiful, spacious, well-equipped, safe and comfortable working and learning environment. The principal, Edlyn Ruffin Modeste, summed up the mood at her school today.
When I got here this morning, the students were overjoyed. You heard comments like, wow, it's a nice facility, it's a nice school. At assembly, I spoke to them about maintaining and caring for the building. I asked them how they felt when they came in, and somebody said to me, excited. And they were excited because of the new facility. They wouldn't be hot anymore. At the previous facility, it was really hot. For us, it's a joy.
Several teachers shared feedback from the students and their own thoughts on the facility.
The students in my class, they are eager to help decorate the class, help be a part of whatever it is to develop the classroom environment. They are eager and willing to do that.
The kitchen is really beautiful. They love the washroom. All the classrooms are really tidy and nice. And it's really nice. It's really, clean and refreshing and things to them.
We're just trying to get them to settle in. We've been chatting with them on things that they should do to ensure that the environment remains well kept. We have taken them around to show them the new facility and some of the things that they should do, how they should behave, because we know that having or coming into a building like this comes with a lot of responsibilities.
Ruffin Modeste says registration for the Holy Cross RC School is still ongoing, and she welcomes inquiries from interested parents who would like their child or children to attend the Holy Cross RC School. The school is able to accommodate 200 students, but there are currently 84 students registered due to accommodation issues in the recent past.
I want to encourage the people, especially Munich and Tuileries, the surrounding areas. Most of them have children that go to schools outside of Munich. Long ago they complained that the facility was not up to the standard that they wanted their children to have. Now that we have the standard, now that we've surpassed the standard, I think now is your chance to transfer, because most of the schools around are overcrowded anyway. For parents, prospective parents who want to get their students to Holy Cross RC, we have space. It's a really modern facility. Your child would be just happy to be at this facility. It's, as somebody said to me, the best primary school in Grenada. You can come in and register your child. We have space, and or you can call. The number is 442-7818. You call the number and I'll give you an appointment and you can come in and have a chat. Or you can just come in and see the facility. We will be happy to show you around.
New registrations will continue until the end of September 2019. Ruffin Modeste has full confidence in her team to deliver at their best. All except one teacher are college trained. From 2015 to 2019, Ruffin Modeste says the school has maintained a 100% CPEA pass rate.
We have really qualified and caring teachers who would go the extra mile to ensure that your child, if it's below the child's level, to bring the child up to the level the child he or she should be at. We also have a lot of co-curricular and extracurricular activities that your child would be a part of. We have the 4-H, the brownies, we have the reading groups.
The construction of the Holy Cross RC School was executed as part of the World Bank's Regional Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project. F.A. Jeremiah and Company Limited was the selected contractor, with the consultants being Consultant Engineers Partnership. For the National Report, I'm Annette Moore.
Government plans to intensify its efforts to reduce vulnerability to natural disasters. Prime Minister Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell says more investment will be made towards resilient infrastructure and land use and physical planning laws will be enforced. He was addressing the commencement of the 2020 budget cycle. In recent months, Grenada has focused heavily on being climate smart and resilient in sectors like health, agriculture, education and infrastructure development. Grenada spent years restoring infrastructure, crops and the livelihood following the devastation of Hurricanes Ivan and Emily in 2004 and 2005 respectively.
We'll intensify our efforts to reduce our vulnerability to natural disasters, as well as strengthen our capacity to adapt to climate change and to mitigate the effects as much as we can feasibly do. Colleagues, in this context, an emphasis on resilient physical infrastructure is also a critical pillar of our country's disaster strategy. Key policy priorities, therefore, must include investing in disaster-resilient infrastructure, enforcing land use and physical planning rules, and building codes to ensure appropriate building standards while limiting deforestation and coastal erosion.
That was Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honourable Keith Mitchell. This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
Big business don't participate.
Welcome back. The Caribbean Development Bank is hosting a two-day conference in Grenada this week on project cycle management, a cornerstone of implementation and delivery. The conference, which will be held at the Radisson Resort on Tuesday and Wednesday, and will engage government officials along with other officials from the CDB and the ECCB. It precedes a two-day meeting of technical officers on Thursday and Friday. The Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, has been a major provider of public sector training initiatives aimed at improving the management, monitoring and implementation of policies, programs and projects in its borrowing member countries. Since 2016, more than 3,000 public servants across the Caribbean region have received training in public policy analysis and management and project cycle management. Finally, the Ministry of Agriculture is placing greater emphasis on knowledge sharing across the board so that all players in the industry can operate from the same level. Public Relations Officer Mina Booker reports on an extension fellowship held recently with this objective in mind.
In an effort to encourage knowledge sharing among farmers and extension officers, the Northern District of the Ministry of Agriculture and Lands hosted officials and farmers from the Western District on Thursday, 29th August. The exchange visit was organized by the Extension Division of the North, allowing participants to visit 3 sites: the Diamond Chocolate Estate, farms of Mr. Denrick Charles of Waltham St. Mark and Mr. Stephen Lewis of Shantymill St. Patrick. Minister of Agriculture and Lands, Honorable Yolan Bain Hosford, who attended the event, praised the Extension Division for organizing the initiative.
No, this is wonderful. I mean, I really appreciate that thought and that activity that you're having here today, because it's important to share ideas, to see different farms, to see how farms are growing and developing, see the different techniques and the different types of plants that farmers are having on their farms. It's good information to share on the different farms. So you can share what you're having and you can share what you're having, and you all can work out different strategies and techniques, how you're all getting your things growing and making money, which is the most important thing, not so? Making money out of it. Enjoying what you're doing and making the money out of it. You know, so I think it's a good exercise.
The participants expressed their delight in being able to participate in the undertaking.
It was very informative, very interactive. The farmers get to have outlook of how farmers in the Northern District would farm or based on their agricultural practices. Just to have a different feel and being on their farm on a daily basis per se, farmers would generally learn from other farmers. It was very informative. It was educating for farmers and the other extension officers from the Western District.
It gives farmers an opportunity to more or less network with each other, different area, geographics, to see what different farmers do based on their areas.
The whole background of this project is for educational activities and socializing.
So we want farmers to educate themselves along the line. But at the same time, we must socialize. We must interact with each other. There might be things practices that would be done on one farmer's holding that might be beneficial to another farmer that he does not practice it, and so we could share information. So it's a time of sharing, it's a time of discussing, a time of educating yourselves and socializing together. Based on the response, I can see that they had enjoyed the trip. Because the interaction could reveal that based on the question asked and so forth. And I think it was well accepted.
Mr. Maximus Lazarus, supervisor for the North, spoke of the importance of having such an undertaking and hopes that the event will become an annual one.
Farming, which is basically the oldest profession, farmers don't really take a day to interact and exchange ideas and socialize. This should be an annual event. And it should be a day when farmers island-wide take a day. Like, they have credit unions there. So all the credit unions come together and socialize. So this should be a national event when farmers take a day from the farming activities and just interact and get to know farmers.
High praise is also coming from Mr. James Mahon, the District Agricultural Officer for the West, who is happy that the decision was taken to reintroduce the fellowship.
We had it in the past, and that was a lot of years ago. And so the idea to revitalize it is a very, very good one. What we have seen is that farmers and even officers too have become lethargic, From their home, they go to the field, they come back, feel home. And so the need has arisen for farmers and officers to come together to create an atmosphere of camaraderie and where we can visit one another and look at issues, problems and solutions and so on. So I think it's a very, very good initiative and something that the other districts need to imitate.
The day ended with a small get-together at the Plains playing field in St. Patrick's, where farmers and other members of the Ministry of Agriculture and Lands were allowed to play cricket, dominoes and interact. For the Ministry of Agriculture's Public Relations Unit, I am Mina Buka.
Thank you, Mina. That story just ended the National Report for today, Monday, September 2nd, 2019. Let's recap the top story. Staff and students at Holy Cross RC School start the school year in style and comfort in their new learning environment. On behalf of the entire news team here at the Government Information Service, I am Rikisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Unemployment within the St. Andrew Parish stands to be reduced further when Renegade Rum Distillery becomes operational in the coming months. Work is progressing according to plan, and recently Prime Minister Dr. The Right Honourable Keith Mitchell was given a detailed tour of the plant in conference. Rikisha St. Louis was there and filed the special State of Affairs feature.
Nestled in the rural community of Conference St. Andrew, standing tall between the trees, is a development that has already begun to transform Grenada's economy, creating employment for young and old, boosting small business activities, and developing the road network within the community. Renegade Rum Distilleries not only promises to brew and bottle premium rum, but also to create a rum that will attract international markets and revenue to our shores. The sod was turned in August 2018 and construction commenced in a matter of weeks. 10 months later, and already there is evidence of how this big dream will benefit the small community.
This has enormous impact on the country, and it's a way of, to another part of it, the diversification of our economy. That's a major component of this. It's also an impact on rural development, because that project, if it was in St. George's, would not have had the impact that it is having on the country's face as having it here in St. Andrew. So there's so much win for this country.
We can see the progress and how it is going, and it's just an anticipation towards the end of what is happening. Moreover, what is good for us in the constituency is the level of development that is taking place, and it's bringing about the benefits for our people. We have direct benefits, we have the indirect benefits. If on your way here you would have seen the expansion of the road structure, the drain construction, and so you see the amount of businesses, the small businesses that were established as a result of this project. The number of persons who got employed in the construction phase, as well as who are employed now with Carriacou. I'm just happy for this level of investment in St. Andrew Northeast.
Prime Minister Mitchell, the parliamentary representative, and their team recently toured the facility to see firsthand its progress and the impact on the community. Unemployment has reduced significantly in the constituency and neighbouring areas, as more than 100 individuals are employed in the construction phase, with hopes of more gaining employment on completion of the factory.
From our end, from Renegade end, we have a young team of staff already, permanent employers already. We employ people to be process operators. The process operators will be the person actually going to the plant, testing different parameters as related to wastewater treatment, the cleaning processes, the yeast treatment, the fermentation and so. We also have the boiler operators on staff already working with the company that we bought the boiler from and installing it. We have the mill operators here already also, and we have the maintenance team here already, and we have the distillers. I mean, one thing, the distillers will be working here basically to do the distill the products and controlling the quality and efficiency of the product that we think we intend to produce. We could boast and say that we have an all-female distillation team. It's the first of its kind.
By the time the project complete, we have to do about 600 acres of cane. We're not even halfway there yet. We assume that we will have maybe 200-300 workers by the time and that's just field workers and stuff like that, by the time the project is completed.
The impact it's having on unemployment in the country, the number of people that are working already, and impressive among the young Grenadians, skilled people, chemists, young people who probably will not, having gone to university and trained in a specific area, would not have had the opportunity to be able to use their skills. And you can see on their faces the happiness and the brightness of their faces. It's a very exciting thing for the country.
Renegade Rum has increased the production of sugarcane on island through its cultivation company Carriacou. Lands have been leased and cultivated in other rural parts of the country, namely Plains, River and Twine, Westerhall, Bacolet, La Colombe, Dunfermline and Hope.
Projects like these normally start and fall apart, and people, have certain level of uncertainty when it comes to, putting the eggs in the basket. However, with the commencement of the factory and we ourselves doing large quantity of cane, a lot of people are now coming, forward and saying, hang on, we have some lands and we don't know if you would, like it, or, if you'd want it to lease, and, in a lot of cases people are offering us lands to buy. We're not buying land, we're just leasing the lands. And people who have lands and want to, let us cultivate the lands for you, we pay $1,000 per acre per annum. And initially we want the land just for 5 years. After 5 years, we should recover the costs that we pay to cultivate those lands. And then you can have back your lands well cultivated.
The large-scale cultivation of sugarcane, according to Prime Minister Mitchell, is a boost to the agricultural sector and economic earnings. He reminisced on the historical structure of areas that were mainly agricultural lands. Dr. Mitchell is pleased that the distillery has found a way to combine agriculture and tourism.
This is a real formula that demonstrated marriage and the importance of it for the country's development, and of course impact on our export earnings, impact on
economic activity in the country as a whole. And of course, so all the things that are coming, the ancillary activities with this Pearls area, this section of the country, historically used to be agriculture estate. The estate is gone. And the estate gone, many of it have been cut up into small pieces. A lot of opportunity for job potential were lost. And with that, the poverty increases in that in the area. I know the parliamentary representative must be extremely happy. The pressure on her would be lifted considerably so, because a lot of people will be doing different things.
Although the factory is not complete, work has already started on installing the equipment so that capacity building training can start before the actual production begins.
We walked through the 4 buildings. The utility building, let's say 40-50% complete. But the steel house, another 40-50% complete. The brew house, which is to the extreme right, let's say 20%. But this is about 80-90% complete. But however, what I must say is that what is left to be done will be much faster than, okay, just to put up the cladding, put up the roofs, and so on. So you'll see that that second phase, one has to be completed, will be much faster and shorter and much faster than actually what was done already.
As the distillery continues to expand in structure, so too is the target of obtaining over 600 acres of land for cultivation. Harvesting has already begun, but not for production, since the factory is not yet in operation. However, hopes are high that within the next 3 months, another batch of cane will be harvested, this time for brewing. For State of Affairs, I am Rakisha St. Louis.
It's coming, the new family of EC polymer notes.
What is different about these notes?
The feel.
Polymer notes are made from a thin plastic film which makes the notes feel smoother than the paper notes.
The orientation.
The notes have a portrait orientation. You will read the notes from top to bottom instead of left to right as you do with the paper notes.
Unique tactile feature.
The front of each note has raised bumps at the top left-hand corner. These bumps form shapes that are familiar to you.
Holographic foil strip.
This feature is on the $20, $50, and $100. When you tilt the notes, the images and colors in this section will change.
New image on the $50.
The back of the $50 bears the image of former governor of the ECCB, the late Honorable Sir K. Dwight Venner.
New signature.
All the notes bear the signature of the current governor, Timothy N.J. Antoine.
EC polymer notes. Cleaner, safer, stronger.
Grenada's economy is heading for its 7th year of consistent growth, averaging over 5%. Unemployment was reduced by 20%, while debt to GDP ratio was reduced from 108% to 63.5%. NNP committed to the economic and social development of our people. NNP delivering on the promise.
If you want to stay married, divorce speed. Never drink and drive. After whiskey, driving is risky. A message from the Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force.
You do in 30 minutes. You could be on one of our 45 black and white sand beaches, or perched atop a lush mountainside admiring our stunning coastline, or slicing the Caribbean Sea on a traditionally built sloop, or adventuring off the beaten path, or hanging out with our underwater sculptures, or do nothing at all. Whatever you choose, an amazing vacation is only 30 minutes away in Grenada. Visit www.puregrenada.com.
There's so much going on with the NNP, and we're just getting started. From candidate launches to contests, events, and breaking news, be in the know. Get notified first about big events and announcements. Plus, we're here to listen. We want to hear from you. Leave us a comment, tell us what's working and what's not. Like what we're doing? Let us know. The NNP is working for you. Interact with us on Facebook. Come on, Grenada, get connected. Like us on Facebook/NNP Grenada and keep moving.
It is said that education is the key to success. The Grenada Development Bank believes this to be the truth. Hence the reason we have made it our prerogative to ensure that your key is in safe hands with us. Here is how you can unlock your success with an education loan from the GDB. We offer you 3 loan options. We've got our regular student loan, our work-study student loan, and our special student loan. Our regular student loan is for persons who wish to pursue full-time tertiary level education. If you are a permanent employee who wish to study while continuing your employment, then our work-study loan is for you. Our special student loan is in collaboration with the government of Grenada, geared towards vulnerable persons who would like to pursue higher level education. Remember, you must have proof of admission from a recognized
Good afternoon to our viewers via radio, television, social media. Thank you to members of the media who have stayed for the second part of today's post-cabinet press briefing. We thought to make it a two-part because we had 2 very important issues to discuss. Of course, we addressed educational developments in the first segment. And in this segment, we have the upcoming visit by the U.S. naval ship Comfort. And the U.S. ambassador has flown into Grenada, and she has, of course, joined us here this afternoon to be part of this press briefing. So let me introduce the guests at the head table. We have the Minister for Health, Social Security and International Business, Honorable Nicholas Steele. The U.S. Ambassador to Barbados, Eastern Caribbean, and the OECS, and of course Grenada is included there, Ms. Linda Schwartz-Tagliatella. And we also have Dr. Francis Martin, who is a senior medical officer with responsibility for medical services. And as mentioned, the focus of this segment would be the upcoming visit by the U.S. naval ship, the Comfort. And on their visit here, they will be offering a number of services to the Grenadian public. Of course, we will go into the details of that shortly. So without any further ado, Minister Steele, I'd like to ask you to make an opening statement.
Well, thank you, Philomena. It is indeed a wonderful opportunity that we have. I want to thank, first and foremost, the members of the media who have come back to facilitate this briefing. And, of course, Ambassador Tagliatella, who has come in for this. This shows the importance of it to both of us. And one way to guarantee the success of this and maximize the benefits is to share as much information as possible, as quickly as possible, to the Grenadian public. And that is the intention of this press briefing, to share as much information as possible with respect to the visit of the U.S. naval hospital ship Comfort, which is an imminent visit. It's something that I know many Grenadians are looking forward to. And we are expecting from the ministry, as always, to touch as many Grenadians as possible through this opportunity. So without further ado, I think I will like to hand over to Ambassador, having welcomed her here. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Steele. It is truly a pleasure to be here today. It's always great to be in Grenada, and I'm truly happy to be able to say that the U.S. Comfort will be coming to Grenada. It will open up shop on September 15th. It will be having some surgical procedures actually on the USS Comfort, and there will be 2 medical sites that will be used to do sort of inpatient exams and simple services. The ones at the 2 sites, one is the Karina Jamal Athletic Center, and the other one is
National Stadium, yes. National Stadium or Karani.
the National Stadium, and the other one is
Trade Center or Youth Center.
the Youth Center, Trade Center. We will have medical teams at both that will be on a first-come, first basis for services. But I want to say, rather than get into all the details, to say that this is very important to the United States. Part of the mission is to help Venezuelan refugees with medical services and any health requirements we can provide them, but also to prove to our fellow citizens of South America that we are committed to Central, South, and the Caribbean countries, and that we are here to work with you and for you as part of our commitment to the region. It is important to show that we are here to work with you and to share whatever expertise we can with the people of Grenada. So we look forward to being here. The hospital will be, and the medical clinics will be open from the 15th through the 20th. And as I say, I can tell you that in previous countries where they've been on a 5-month tour. They've been in some 10 countries doing very similar work, that they have done anywhere from 1,000 to 1,800 visits a day at the clinics. So we plan on opening up services to everyone as possible, given the time constraints and the amount of work that needs to be done. But we are very happy to be here. We say welcome to Grenada. We will have an opening ceremony on the 15th, and I will be back to welcome not only the ship, but to offer the services to the people of Grenada.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Members of the media, there you've had it, the opening statements from Minister Steele and the Ambassador. Dr. Martin is here as a resource person if any questions come from the media, and he will be willing to answer them. So I now open the floor to members of the media. As per usual, identify yourself and your media house before asking your question. I will also ask that specifically for this segment of the post-cabinet press briefing, we stick to the subject at hand, which is the visit of the U.S. naval ship Comfort.
Callistra Farry, good morning, afternoon. Dr. Martin, the system of referral, you have a system of referral that is part of it in terms of getting patients, and could you just explain generally how does one get attention in the clinic?
Okay, thank you very much. The U.S. Comfort will be offering problem-based services in 7 broad categories of services. Ophthalmology services, that is eye services, either testing of the eyes or giving of glasses. General surgery, and that's general surgery for pediatrics as well as adults. Urology, which has to do with our urinary systems, both male and female. Orthopedic surgeries and orthopedic services, even maxillofacial services, so any injuries or disease related to the head and the facial part you'll be able to get, and gladly plastic surgery or dermatology, and that's an area that we have deficiencies in. I'm quite happy that we actually will be able to do plastic surgery and wound care. Persons do not necessarily need a referral, although if you have a referral from your physician, it makes it easier for the healthcare providers on the ship to navigate you through the system. But even if you do not have a referral from your physician, you can actually simply show up at the sites. You will be triaged at the sites, and your service requirements will be noted, and you'll be taken through the system. Just a quick examples of things that will be done, and I want to say this because we really want persons who have the problems to come and get the services. We have a short time, it's 5 days, and we don't really want people who need the services not getting it. So if you do not have a problem, I don't think you should, well, I don't want to say don't show up, but I think you understand what I mean. Let's allow persons who actually have problems to get in. So things like cataract surgery and lens replacement. I've been getting lots of calls from persons who are on the waiting list for cataract surgeries and lens replacement. Pterygium, if you don't understand the term, is the growth that happens in the eyes. In some cases, you look at them and you see there's a growth over the eye. This could be removed surgically. That will be done. Lumps and bumps, biopsies that persons have, as I said before, orthopedic surgeries. There are some medical conditions or orthopedic conditions or arthritic conditions that sometimes a doctor, inject medicines into the joints to help with pain relief. That can be quite expensive for some people. You'll be able to get this aboard the ship. Radiological services. There are persons who might have had lab tests that they need to get done, x-rays that they need to get done, CT scans that they need to get done but are not able to afford to do so. The ship will be able to offer those services for them as well. Hernia repair, that's another area with a long waiting list. Persons who have inguinal hernias and varicocele, which is something that men have, growth in the inguinal area. Those would also be offered by the ship. So there's quite a number of areas offered that are long waiting lists, and we really want persons to take advantage of the opportunity to come down and get served.
Ambassador, you spoke of Venezuela as well. Can you tell me what the involvement is going to be as far as assisting the Venezuelan refugees, and which countries in particular are you targeting to assist them?
The ship has been out for approximately 4 months. It started, it has gone to Colombia, to Ecuador, and to Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica, where there are large numbers of Venezuelan refugees. They're coming here. If there are Venezuelan refugees, which I understand there are very few, they will see them. But the focus here is more on the partnership between Grenada and the United States and the relationship that we have built over a long period of time, and that we are sharing our expertise and knowledge with the Grenadians. I have to say that we have asked a number of doctors through the Ministry of Health to participate alongside of the American doctors that will be on the ship. So it's not only, it will be a learning experience and a sharing of information and knowledge between the doctors on the ship as well as the doctors here in Grenada, as well as helping the citizens of Grenada.
Do we have any further questions?
I'd like to add something that I think is quite important to make mention of. The ambassador mentioned where the sites are going to be. I just want to confirm that the sites are going to be at the Kirani James Stadium and the and the Trade Center. Those are the two sites that you can show up at. Subject to a little bit of tweaking, the hours of operation should be somewhere between 9 and 3 p.m., 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. But as we continue to educate and give information to the public, I'm going to confirm that time for you. This is just the ballpark area that we're thinking about. It's important to also state that persons who are shortlisted for surgeries already, I had a call from the medical director just a couple of minutes before now, where he has shortlisted persons who were on the waiting list at the hospital to receive surgery. They will be receiving the surgery aboard the ship. It's important to recognize that if you are selected to have surgery aboard the ship, you have to bring a family member or some other persons with you, especially if your surgery is going to be an overnight surgery, or if you'll be on the ship as an overnight waiting or overnight observation. The ship will provide both room and meals for the person that you're going to take with you aboard the ship. Many of the surgeries are going to be day surgeries, so you won't need to bring anyone with you. But if you, for whatever reason, let's say you have a hernia repair, but they need to observe you overnight, remember to bring someone with you. So if you're not sure if you're going to be overnight, probably the best thing is just bring someone with you in the first place. So those are two very important bits of information I wanted to share.
Thank you very much, Dr. Martin. I I think there are no further questions from the media. Ms. Faria, do you have an additional question?
Minister, given the scarcity of resources at the hospital, can you tell me how important such a visit is? Dr. Martin spoke of long waiting lists and people who are finally going to get attention. So tell me how important this is for you as minister.
Well, I think, Callistra, our presence here and our cooperation with the U.S. on this shows the importance that we put. You say scarcity of resources. Yes, we are a developing country and we have our challenges. So we are always grateful for any assistance that we get. In this instance, we do not have Venezuelan refugees on island, but as the ambassador said, we have a very good relationship with the United States government, and as such, they've chosen to visit here as well. The countries that are listed here are those fortunate enough to have a visit from the U.S. Navy ship Comfort. We are one of those, and as such, like I said, we're here to maximize the benefit. I think that is a responsibility of Dr. Martin and myself to make sure, with whatever resources we have, to maximize the benefit of it. So this is one additional resource for 5 days that we will maximize.
And how are things generally at the hospital? Are we these days? Can you give me an update on the hospital?
Work continues on phase 2. We had a tour of that facility last week. In my opinion, it can never be finished in time. For me, I would have liked it to have finished a year ago, even before it started. It's long overdue, that. So we are looking at a now phased move in. I'm told the beginning of it will be between 6 and 8 weeks from last week, the phased move in of that structure. As you're aware, we have procured as well a CT scanner, 128 slice CT scanner, which is going to be the most advanced in this area. I want to thank the Maria Holder Foundation for that. We continue to work with our other partners like SGU. They have a role to play in that facility as well. And I'm looking forward to us moving in fully so that we can begin the repairs and renovations of Rathdoon, where A&E currently exists, so that we can deal with the overcrowding that exists at Mountgay. So it's long awaited, that part. We have also made enhancements to our pediatric ward at the hospital, and also procured through the Indian government an incinerator that's going to make a big difference as well with the disposal of medical waste on island, not just at the general hospital, but on island. The Go-Off Polyclinic construction is ahead of schedule. In fact, we expect that construction to be completed before the end of this year, as opposed to the end of first quarter next year. That, again, is a welcome addition to the entire northwestern side of the island. Again, long awaited, but soon to be delivered. We continue the smarting project with DFID and Pan American Health organizations, which will see improvements to Princess Royal in Carriacou. We already have commissioned Princess Alice in Grenville with those improvements. Work continues on Princess Royal, and I look forward to that, the completion of that as well. We have also signed off with World Bank IDA on some $6 million improvements to $6 million US improvements to various health centers around the island. So, as you've always heard from me, there are challenges in healthcare, and I will be the first to recognize our challenges. But I would say within the next 6 to 8 months, there is significant improvement. And apart from the fact that we will see physically difference in all of our facilities, I will continue to come here to say we still have and will always have, like any other country, first world or developing, much to do in healthcare, and look forward to working with anybody to improving it at any point in time.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Will the ship be providing any gifts by way of medicine? I know sometimes we end up with a bit of a shortfall where medicine is concerned. Will they be providing, do you have that component in the visit?
I'm not aware of any shortfall that the ship can provide us with or so. So no, we haven't had any discussions of gifts of medicine, because there isn't any shortfall with respect to medicine in Grenada.
Thank you very much, members of the media. Ambassador, before we wrap, would you like to say anything in closing?
Well, as the ambassador to Grenada, I am really pleased that Grenada was selected as one of the countries for the comfort visit. We've been working very closely with the ministry, and we're very pleased with the number of medical personnel who have volunteered to assist with the comforts visit. I'd like to thank the Ministry of Health for all of this, all of the support they've given us, and to say I look forward to being back and to meet many of the Canadian citizens as they go through the process and get assistance from the comfort ship.
Minister, anything in closing?
Yeah, I too just want to take this opportunity to thank the team at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Martin, our CMO, Dr. Mitchell, Permanent Secretary Pauline Peters, but also in particular the advanced team that has come down on various occasions from Southern Command and U.S. Navy Comfort to make sure as best as possible that this visit is maximized, that it works smoothly. It indeed has been a pleasure participating in some of those meetings and seeing this all play out. So I want to take this opportunity to thank all of them, the decision makers and those who are on the ground to make sure that the activities occur. So we look forward to that visit and look forward to the benefits from it again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Steele. Dr. Martin, any closing words from you?
Oh, yeah. Patients can call me at the Ministry of Health 440-2641, extension 21073, or you can call my mobile 405-0311 so I can share first-hand information for you regarding accessing care at the Comfort. And really would like as much people as possible to take advantage of this. We are being prepared to attend to at least 500 patients per day, and they're going to be here for 6 days. That's a lot of patients, a lot of people that can take advantage of this opportunity. So please call and let's get you in.
Thank you very much to all members at the head table here. Just a reminder to the listening public, several broad areas of services that will be provided by the doctors and medical personnel aboard the ship in collaboration with the local doctors. As Ambassador said, they have been invited. We have ophthalmology, general surgery, urology, orthopedic surgery, maxillofacial surgeries, plastic surgery, dermatology, and wound care. And of course, as Dr. Martin would have mentioned, a referral is not needed, but we do have some persons who are already shortlisted for surgeries. So it's an opportunity for us as Grenadians to take advantage of the services provided, the health services provided by the U.S. naval ship Comfort. And we thank the U.S. for the cooperation that they have extended to Grenada and all other Caribbean islands in this respect. Thank you, members of the head table, for being here. I thank the members of the media who have had a pretty long day with us. I look forward to very good coverage of the items this morning. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. I'm Press Secretary Philomena Robertson.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
If you want to stay married, devote speed. Never drink and drive. After whiskey, driving is risky. A message from the Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force.